Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel, Diamonds and Washi. My name is Katie, and if you're new to my channel, hey, welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing for lots more diamond painting content. And if you are back, welcome back. And today, you guys, I'm here for MARVEL-ous May Week 2, and I have brought a special guest with me today. You've heard from him before, but I would say he needs an introduction, but I'm going to give you an introduction
Whether you
anyway.
like it or not.
So, this is Adam.
Hi.
And
out.
I am so sad that we did not catch some of our ridiculous banter on here before we started. But yes, so I decided that I needed a special guest to come and chat with me for what I wanted to talk about today. And we were chatting beforehand and trying to get all set up and everything. And he's pouring himself a mixed drink and I'm grabbing tissues. And out of context, that sounds like he's really stressed about how this conversation is going to go and needs a drink. And
that's accurate.
And that I'm so worried that I'm going to cry at what he's going to say that I needed tissues when neither of those things are actually true. But we'll just, we'll leave it up to the imagination. But I'm going to be doing a little bit of diamond painting today and just having that kind of going, kind of whip and chat style. I may or may not have another whip and like a regular whip and chat go up this week. We're just going to kind of see how today goes. You really never know when you get the two of us on camera, how long we're going to talk and what that's going to look like and what shenanigans are going to occur. So I'm going to link to all the accessories and whatnot that I'm working with today. I'm going to be working on my MARVEL-ous May project, which is Magic Portal, aka Doctor Strange from Diamond Art Club. My pen and matching putty are both the black opal variety from Butterfly Effect Wares. The tray is from Unimade. The wax I'll be using in my single placer is from Not Your Mama's Mud, and both of these are actually from an Etsy shop called Mo Pins that I've converted into cover minders. And no, this isn't a Loki kit, but I have so many amazing Loki pins and minders that I had to bust this one out. And then this, of course, is Doctor Strange related, so love it. So anyway, if you are new and you're not sure what I'm talking about when I'm talking about MARVEL-ous May, it is a diamond painting event that I am hosting that runs throughout the month of May, and it is in partnership with Diamond Art Club to celebrate the launch of their amazing new line of Marvel kits. They have partnered officially with Marvel. I almost said Diamond Art Club partnered with Diamond Art Club, and I was like, no, incorrect. They partnered with the one and only Marvel, and we have their first round of releases of diamond painting kits. And I am over the moon and was so stoked when this all happened and got released and was like, we should do an event to celebrate this. And actually I had friends that were cheering me on and telling me I should do that too. So here we are. If you're here for information about who won last week's giveaways and how to enter for this week's giveaways, you got to stay tuned. You're just going to have to stick around and find out. So what we're going to be doing for MARVEL-ous May Week 2, which I should also say that it's not too late to join in. All you have to be doing is working on a Marvel kit. No new starts required. No finishes required. Just grab your kit, join in. There's going to be info later about how to enter for this week's prizes. And if you're here for the grand prize information, I'm going to have more information about that probably next week, so stay tuned for that. We're halfway through the event, though, and for this week's MARVEL-ous May video, I thought it would be really fun to sit down and I thought I would try to narrow it down to my favorite Marvel movies, like of the MCU. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of scrolling through lists and stuff, I was like, you know what, this is, like, it would be just a shame to miss out on the opportunity to grab my movie buff of a husband, who I have seen most of these movies with, and get his opinion too.
And let's be honest now, if you hadn't invited me, I probably would have just barged in anyway when you were talking about.
Yeah, because usually he's just, chilling, working, face, really. Co-working. I am saving face. You are ruining my saving face. Which is about par for the course. That sounds about right. I cannot get this to not want to spin. I'm like so... okay, we're just going to start over with this whole thing. Not the whole video, just with what I'm attempting to do on camera right now. So anyway, just so you know, we decided, because we talked about it, and I was like, okay, let's go with what our favorite, like personal favorite movies are, as opposed to what we think the actual best Marvel movies are. Because sometimes you can have like I don't know, like a guilty pleasure necessarily, but you're like, well, maybe this was technically like a better movie or whatever. But I'm going to go with like this, I'm going to name this other movie because I just personally loved it. that much more. So these are our favorites, not what we would necessarily say are the best.
I mean, mine would sort of end up being about...
Really?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, they kind of end up being that. But
one or two of mine might be. So do we want to try to do them in order, like, and end with our top favorite?
Yeah, let's do
that.
Let's go from 3 to 1.
Okay, we'll alternate. So what should we do? Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Maybe I should start. That way your number 1 is last.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. Okay, wait, here, first, before we start, do you think we're going to have any overlap?
Probably.
You think so?
I think so.
I think we're okay, by the way, you're shaking the table really hard and it's making like the whole camera shake. So no, your chair's fine. Okay. The table's the problem.
All right, well, I'll wiggle the chair instead.
ADHD problems.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so I think we're gonna have at least one overlap. I think we're gonna have one overlap. I don't know about more than one, but okay. So what's your number 3? What's your?
All right, number 3. Well, how much detail should I go into here?
We'll talk about why. Okay. Yeah, like talk about why you picked that one. Right. Like why?
I'll let you guide me.
I will. Right. I will give my thoughts about why your choice and why it's either right or wrong.
I actually went through. I glanced at all of them.
How many are there? Did you? Is it 20?
20-some.
20-something.
20-something.
23, 25. I don't know.
A lot.
Too many now. Anyway.
Don't ask me questions that I don't have answers to. It makes me look bad. But I went through them and I just wrote down ones that I thought were contenders, and I ended up with 6 of them.
6 okay. But, we can do an honorary mention if you want.
I might do honorable mention. But I'll wait till the end.
Okay.
Okay. So, but I will say number 3 was tricky to pick. 1 and 2 were pretty easy, but 3 was a little trickier and almost kind of arbitrary, and it'll make more sense when I do all of them.
Okay.
But my number 3 was Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I think that's high on a lot of people's lists.
That almost made the cut for me. Yeah, spoiler alert, it did not make the cut, but it was close. That was close.
So this one, like I said, there's a few others that would have been in contention, but that one is, I mean, well, it does. We're shortly post like first Avengers, movie. We're in that phase, which is a really fun phase, and it's surrounded by a lot of other really good movies. But it's the first time we really saw him paired with Natasha, and their dynamic is amazing. It's got that great like cold 70s. Paranoid crossed with Cold War kind of vibe to it, without kind of being drowned in that. It really still feels like a Marvel movie at the same time. I really love what it does with Steve's character, the way they kind of figure out what a Captain America looks like in the real world. Some of this might be for me kind of, I grew up loving like Superman, and everybody's complaint about Superman is that he's too perfect and too pure, that it's hard to write for him. And I think they've done it's been hit or miss with Captain America, but with Winter Soldier, they kind of had a similar problem where it's like, how do you kind of have this perfect Boy Scout in a, present day America, and, him not be problematic or, boring. And they just nailed that. Not to mention, the movie just looks great and it has a lot of Samuel L. Jackson, which is always a plus.
Oh, you have some great lines. That's
Robert Redford. You've got some great lines. You've got some
on your left. That's the original.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, Sam's amazing. I love Sam.
I love Sam Wilson.
We reintroduced Bucky, which is a nice moment, and there's just a lot of good stuff in there, and the action is really solid. There's some stuff in there that's still really practical, so it doesn't feel like the whole movie's made in in front of a green screen. Not that there isn't plenty of CG too, but it just has a more tactile feeling to it.
Yeah.
The story's just good. A lot to love in this movie. Like whenever I watch it, I'm always glad I'm watching it.
Yeah. And isn't this like the movie that they talk about how I have to take that off because it keeps clinking against my tray and annoying me. Isn't this the one where they talk about how this character, the movie is literally named after the Winter Soldier, but that character gets
He's barely in it.
He's barely in it.
But they talk about him a lot. Like he's pushing the story in a lot of ways.
Right. And who doesn't love Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier? Like,
yeah.
Oh, so good.
Before
so good.
he, reverted to Bucky.
Bucky.
Which I still like him, when we get more of him in, the other movies. But it's fun to kind of get this version of him still trying to figure out who he is.
I think that it's a good one in that it kind of explores like Steve Rogers, like his PTSD and like what it's like for him to suddenly have been displaced from his current time and like what it's like to now he's living 50 years later. I kind of like that it explored that too.
And on a lighter note, they have his list of things he's supposed to catch up on.
Yes.
So, I don't know, some of you may already know about this, but you can look it up if not. So, there's a moment right at the beginning where Sam says, like, you need to listen to the Trouble Man soundtrack. So he writes it down, and you get a quick glimpse at like, the other things on his, like, list of stuff people tell him to. It's like this little notepad. It says, like, Star Wars / Trek, which cracks me up.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of other stuff on there. But apparently that list was different in different markets.
Yes.
So in different countries, they had other stuff on that list. And you can find screenshots of them online so you can see the difference.
And like translated to say like what it was. And
well,
stuff.
yeah, it's not just, they changed completely what the, content of it is based on what they thought, audiences would find interesting or amusing to be on that list.
Which I love that.
So
that's so funny.
Yeah. And they didn't advertise that. That just came out of like a Reddit thread.
Yeah. Or Tumblr. Don't underestimate Tumblr. Okay, that's a good choice. That was one of my contenders for number 3, for sure. Do you know what my number 3 was?
What was your number 3?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
That was a strong contender for 3.
Was it?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. Okay, so, and it's funny, maybe this is partly because we just saw Volume 3, and I was just like struck by the juxtaposition of the tone and how that movie went as opposed to the first volume. And I think that the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie was really special at the time because Marvel hadn't made a movie like that yet. Like it was really different, like the humor style, the tone, just like that was Chris Pratt, like fresh off of Parks and Rec. And I love Parks and Rec. And I think that he has a certain like cute charm in that movie because it almost felt like stardom was still maybe like new to him or something. But I really, really enjoyed that movie. And these characters, there was such a novelty and a fun to them. And it was a team up movie. But I mean, this like spawned the obsession with Groot. Like every single one of the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy is funny and interesting in their own way. You get the Groot dance.
Baby Groot dance at the end.
Yes. And revived like that musical genre. Honestly, after we watched the third Guardians movie last weekend, I've just had the soundtrack from the first one in my head, like stuck. And I've even tried listening to the songs to try to get them out of my head. And it just doesn't, it's not working. They're still stuck in my head. So just, yeah, the whole tone of it was really fun. Now, Guardians was after the first Avengers movie. Yes, it was.
It was same year as Winter Soldier.
Actually. Was same. Okay, that was a good year for Marvel movies.
Sure was.
Jeez. I feel like when we do our Marvel movie rewatch, once we get to about this part, we're like, man, we're in the good stretch. Like, there's a lot of good ones right around here.
Another one that year? I think there was.
Would that have been Ant-Man? Or that was later?
Ant-Man was the next year.
When was Black Panther and all? I don't remember. You'd have to look
later.
it up. That was a few years later, too. I don't know.
I'll look right now. I thought there was something else that year. Iron Man 3 was the year before.
Okay.
Thor the Dark World was also the year before. No, it was just those two. Just Winter Soldier and Guardians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interestingly, you mentioned Thor the Dark World, and a lot of lists will put that as like the worst movie in the whole MCU
I think
series.
It's low, but I also think it's better than people remember it. There's a lot of fun in that movie, even if it's not, amazing.
I think there have been some other movies that have come out since that you could argue were worse. But yeah, so number 3 for me has definitely got to be Guardians, and I think...
Should we do a bottom 3?
That would be funny. Oh man.
Might have to pause.
Might have to pause. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe we get through our top 3 and then we can decide if we're going to do our bottom 3. Maybe we can say bottom 3 for next week. I need nights. We have week 3 TBD.
Bottom 3 sounds just really depressing.
It does sound.
If you just do it by itself.
That's true.
We'll
we could
figure it out.
Yeah. But let me close. We got to finish just my thoughts on Guardians. Like I said, I think part of it is where it was in time, like how this movie, what this was like to people, and what it was like experiencing this movie at the time. I think it was because it was so unique, and it was refreshing. It was like, hey, look at this totally different thing that Marvel can do and do really well. And I enjoyed the humor in it and the characters, and so Guardians is number 3 for me. Okay, brief pause to confer on how we wanted to handle this situation. So we're going to tell you our thoughts on worst movies at the end. We just had to pause. So we just talked about my number 3, which was Guardians of the Galaxy, which was one of your runners-up to number 3. And your number 3 was The Winter Soldier, which was one of my runners-up to number 3. So, okay, Adam, what is your number 2?
My number 2, I'm curious if this is one of your runners-up too. Spider-Man No Way Home.
Ooh, okay.
So I really liked Homecoming. I was not as big of a fan of Far From Home, mainly because I found it very predictable. But No Way Home I was concerned about this movie, thinking it was just going to be too much of a fan service movie, and it did have some of that, but it works really well dramatically. It was
satisfying.
It was fun and dramatic to have the people back that they brought back. It wasn't just, silly and fun. It was also that, but they had dramatic purpose. I thought the way they made Green Goblin work in it, and the other villains, especially Green Goblin, though, was really amazing. It was really great to get to see Willem Dafoe do his thing and get some redemption for Jamie Foxx also. Another stab at Electro. But just overall, that movie was very satisfying, very fun. It was emotional. It was exciting. It was all the things you wanted from it.
Is that the first movie out after Endgame?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot riding on that, like coming off of Endgame.
Yeah. Now, that was a big problem because they were trying to promote the movie without giving anything away, but then
oh my gosh,
that's
a huge part of the story.
They kind of had to, so it was, but that was a Sony thing. Sony dictated the release date, so they had to.
Oh man,
so Sony's being jerks about it.
There's actually lots of speculation on are we gonna get any Spider-Man Diamond Art Club kits because of who knows what the situation is with Sony and where the merchandising agreement stands, and none of us know what the actual.
Marvel is owned by Disney, pure and simple. Sony only shares the movie rights.
Okay.
So if they wanted to do a Spider-Man kit, they could do a Spider-Man kit.
If it's based on
not a movie kit.
That's the thing. That's the kicker. Is some of these kits, I think it's a little unclear, if they're really based on movie or comic book art.
Well, I'm not sure how that necessarily works either, because just because they're sharing the movie rights doesn't mean they're sharing the merch rights.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. This is not me pretending like I know what's happening behind the scenes. But that's a good choice. I was debating. I will say that none of the Spider-Man movies made the cut for me. In part, okay, I have to admit, in a tiny part, because I didn't sit down and read and remind myself of what things happened in what movie. I think that the first Spider-Man movie that they did was of this verse and timeline, not the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Was really fun. Why Tom Holland? How in the world am I blanking on his name? It's Tom freaking Holland. Tom Holland as Spider-Man was just so fun and so perfect. I love that the reveal that Aunt May is not a grandma. This is what a woman can look like who could be a grandma. That was really fun. I really enjoyed that first.
Aunt May isn't a grandma. She's an aunt.
She's an aunt. Okay. But she's portrayed very grand matronly in
the Tobey Maguire one.
In the Tobey Maguire
she
ones.
Absolutely is, yeah.
Yeah, so I did think about doing a nod to the first one in the MCU. But I can appreciate your pick. That was, especially like following up on Endgame. That's a good one. I wonder if my number 2... Sorry, I just had a childish moment. If my pick for my second spot would...
I'm following your brain.
Man, it has been a day with the children. It just has completely infected my brain. I wonder if my number 2 would have made any of your runner-up spots. And I admit that part of this is like, again, we're talking about what our favorite movies are. And this is a movie that I could go back and rewatch over and over again and just love it every single time. And it's the original Iron Man movie. Just Iron Man. The first Iron Man movie. Because that was one of, like, the very, very first movies in the MCU. And Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. And that movie was just, I love the story. I love how it sets up and ties into so much of like what we have now. And at the time, they didn't have a guarantee that this was going to build to an Avengers movie, or that, I don't know, like this early on, did they really have everything mapped out with like phase this, phase that? No, not necessarily. They were just writing stories that could be really good standalone stories that they hoped could tie into something, and they kept hinting at.
They didn't really have any plan at all at that point.
Yeah. But they still, like, was this one of the first movies? Like, because the only one that came before this was The Incredible Hulk, which is a whole
Hulk was thing. Right after that.
Oh, it was right after that.
Yeah, Iron Man was the first one.
Oh, okay. And this was the introduction of the post-credits scene.
Yeah, so they were starting to set up the Avengers Initiative, but they didn't actually have a plan of how to get there.
Yeah.
They didn't know when that was coming or how it was going to work out. In Hulk, initially, they hadn't even figured out, like, how this connected to the Eric Bana movie. Like, it was written to kind of fit into that world still.
Right.
They didn't have the actors come back. So it was deliberately kind of ambiguous. So even the timeline wasn't really figured out.
Gotcha.
So they were still making up a lot as they went.
Okay. I feel like it's funny, like at the time you would go to a movie and if like you saw Iron Man in theaters, you would probably assume that like, okay, movie's over, credits are rolling, I'm safe to go. Like that's when I feel like the mid-credits and post-credit scenes were kind of a novelty, and it was like, you kind of had to be in the know to know it. And now it's like, I was just talking with some friends about this last weekend, that you judge people that walk out of a Marvel movie before the very end of the credits.
We said it just the other day when we saw Guardians 3. Is like, what are these people new? Where are you going?
It's literally opening weekend. We know none of these people have actually seen this movie before, which I highly entertained my friends by describing how we have sometimes before pre-kids, we would see Marvel movies more than once in the theaters. And after we'd seen it the first time, like upon subsequent viewings in the theater, we wouldn't stay for the mid and post credit scenes. And I would like talk overly loudly to you and say things like, wow, I hope people don't think that we don't know that there is post credit scenes. We've just already seen this movie before, because I was like, I don't want people to judge me. I don't want people to think that I'm new. So I would like stage whisper to you, like, I'm afraid they're going to judge us. Like, no, we know. But yeah, no, Iron Man remains like one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Like, I think it's really neat that like Robert Downey Jr., like the actor, has a similar kind of redemption arc as Iron Man does. And it's really neat, like, knowing that this movie like turned around his life and career. It gives it a little bit of like emotional weight. So anyway, that's my number 2.
That's a very, very good movie. I wouldn't put it that high for me, but it's always fun to watch. I enjoyed it when it came out, and I've enjoyed it since. So. Yeah. But I think that it's surpassed by a number of other movies, but it is.
Well, again, I'm talking about personal favorites.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know. Yeah. That one never quite hit that height for me. I always thought it was good. I always had a good time, but it never didn't.
Sure.
Didn't reach that level for me of favorite.
Okay.
That's totally fair. Before we get to our top picks, you guys, I want to take a really quick break and do prize announcements. So first, I want to announce the winners for last week's prizes and tell you how to enter for this week's prizes. So each week, I am giving away Diamond Art Club is sponsoring giveaways for both a diamond painting kit and then a second prize for a Diamond Art Club gift card. So first I want to announce the week 1 winners. And you just have to follow the instructions in the video, fill out the weekly giveaway form. I'm going to use a random comment picker that I always use for my channel giveaways and pop up screenshots on the screen of who is drawn for the winner. So first, to announce the winner of the Marvel diamond painting kit, which if you filled out the weekly form correctly, you will have told us what kits you already own so we don't send you a duplicate. The winner for the week 1 Diamond Art Club kit is, look at the screen. Congratulations! I will be reaching out to you via the contact information you gave me in the weekly giveaway form and work on getting that kit over to you. So a huge congratulations to you. And then the winner of our $50 gift card from week 1, which again, thank you to Diamond Art Club for donating. The winner for this gift card is, look at the screen. Congratulations again. So keep an eye on your emails, you guys. Check your spam as well, just in case. I'm going to get those prizes out to you. Now, how to enter for the week 2 giveaway. So 2 really important steps. First, there is a form that's linked in the description box below this video. There should be a down arrow or a word that says more around the title that you can click on. It expands the description box. You will see a link that says specifically weekly giveaway form. Please fill out that form. Fill it out as accurately as you possibly can, because that's how I'm going to get in touch with you, verify the winner, make sure we don't send you a duplicate kit if you're chosen for the kit prize. So fill that out, and then also leave a comment on this video of what your favorite Marvel movie is. It's okay if it doesn't match up with one of ours. So do those 2 things, and your says me. No, I am very fair. Don't call that into question. The 2 prizes I'm giving away this week, you guys, it's going to be the same thing every week, actually. Diamond Art Club has donated a Marvel kit that I'll be giving away each week, as well as a $50 Diamond Art Club gift card. The kit itself, like I said, we're going to do our best to make sure we don't send you a duplicate of a kit you already own, but we cannot guarantee that. So that's 1 prize for 1 person. And then a second person, so the kit, by the way, is only open to U.S. viewers. The second prize is open to U.S. and non-U.S. viewers, and that is the $50 gift card, like I mentioned. So you guys know what to do, how to enter. Don't put the words prize or giveaway or anything like that in the comments. Those will be automatically filtered out just to keep out bots and spam and stuff like that. So best of luck to everyone. This giveaway for week 2 is going to stay open through Saturday, I have to look at the calendar, May 20th. At 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, and I will announce the winner in the week 3 video that goes up on May 22nd. Giveaway closes May 20th. Winner announced on May 22nd. So best of luck to everyone. Check the description box for any other rules and details. Without further ado, because we've left you in suspense, we got to talk about what our favorite picks are. Our number 1 personal favorites. I have maybe a suspicion that this may be the same. Do you think it might be the same?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Your personal top favorite movie. Okay. You go first.
I'll bet you they're different.
You bet they're different?
So you tell me.
I don't know.
So,
what's your number 1 favorite?
My number 1 favorite is the original Avengers.
It's the same. Yes.
Nice.
What did you... Okay, well, you tell me why, and then I want you to tell me what you thought mine might have been instead.
Well, I wasn't sure, but I really didn't know if you would reach back that far.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Avengers to me is it was one of those, you have to put yourself in that time period too of like, you know, nobody was really sure how this was going to work. Now all these, you know, huge tentpole movies with, you know, team ups and crossovers are like part of the course.
Standard, yeah.
But like at the time, nobody was really sure if any of this was going to work. And not only does it work, it works unbelievably well, and it brings new ideas and new styles to the whole genre of superhero movies, of which there just weren't that many comparatively. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it really set the tone for, even to this day, the way that they make these movies. So not just them, but everybody else.
I was going to say, how many other IPs have tried to copy this concept since?
So, Joss Whedon, despite his character flaws, did amazing work on that movie, and it's really hard to deny the influence that it's had, and it was super fun to watch then. It's still super fun to watch now. It even goes so far as to do probably the best character work we've seen on Hulk to date.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of disappointing we didn't get better work on that character overall, but it was good to see that he prioritized that in this movie to get to build on what was already done, even though they swapped actors. So there's just so much good stuff that he's introducing characters and furthering storylines, and it's just such a great movie. It's just too much fun. It's light plot wise, but it's there's no movie is more fun to watch in the MCU than that.
Okay, if you had to pick a favorite scene or favorite line from that movie, a favorite scene or favorite line from that movie, I'll give you one, maybe an honorary mention. Like, what would you pick? Like, what is the most?
I'm gonna need a minute.
That man is playing Galaga.
Oh, that's up there.
Thought we wouldn't notice.
No,
we didn't. Oh man. The moment for me, it's probably the moment the camera sweep, the pan around the group, and the Avengers theme.
Huge.
Like if you didn't get goosebumps in that moment in the theater, you were not human.
Yeah.
Like that was just that was it. That was the shot.
All of them eating shawarma at the end was pretty amazing.
That was funny. And here's a little bit of trivia, which I'm considering doing trivia week for week 3. But the funny bit of trivia of why Chris Evans was sitting with his hands resting on his elbow and you can't see the bottom half of his face. And it's because they shot that scene later. And he had to grow facial hair for a movie that scarred me for life.
Oh yeah, for Snowpiercer.
For Snowpiercer. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that movie. But he wasn't allowed to shave it, and so they just shot it.
What's hilarious to me is they brought all these actors back, all of them back to shoot this
the shawarma scene,
which none of them speak, including Chris Evans, whose face you can't even see, just so they could put that in at the end because they thought it was funny.
So funny. Your favorite? Did I give you a minute?
I'm still thinking.
You're still thinking?
I can't,
you need a minute. Okay, so I'll talk about why. Let me talk about why this made my top pick.
Go for it.
All the things that Adam said, which to be fair, I think that some of this probably over time, because that movie came out such a long time ago. It wasn't really that long ago, was it? 2012. Okay. We've done a lot of rewatches over time, and so I've probably just sort of assimilated some of Adam's opinions about how, that movie was just incredibly iconic at the time. I personally am a sucker for that movie because it has one of my actual favorite character in the MCU, and I think has a really interesting story and arc in this movie, and that's Loki. I love Loki as a character. Are you laughing at me or something you're reading?
No, I found my favorite part.
You found your favorite part? Okay. But I love Loki in this movie. I love that he was so incredibly popular in the original Thor movie and in subsequent movies, that he was so wildly popular that basically fan response nearly single-handedly made them continue bringing that character back because he was just so popular as a villain who ultimately he makes the lineup in the Marvel gallery of heroes and stuff now after the TV show and whatnot. But I really enjoy his story and some of the if you dig into kind of the implications, he was under the control of the Mind Stone in that movie, so is he really a villain? It's fascinating to me. I enjoy his lines, and I think he is a really good antagonist in that movie. And so that definitely swayed it in favor because I'm a sucker for any movie that has plenty of Tom Hiddleston's Loki in it. But besides that, just it's shot beautifully. It's just wonderful to watch. And I don't know if any of the team up movies since have, like, maybe Infinity War, Endgame. Like, there's some epic moments in Endgame, but Avengers was just, it was the original.
So as epic as Endgame is, and as much fun as it is, that movie has some big issues for me that make it hard to put up high. I really enjoy watching that one too. I had a great time watching that. But it has problems.
Fair.
That are distracting. Just, I feel like I need to say that out loud because some people are going to wonder why we didn't pick Endgame.
Right. I would argue that, like, if you want to talk about, I don't know if I call it a personal favorite, but a movie that, well, actually, you know what? Let me save that. Tell me what your favorite scene or line from.
Okay, I have to pick a top 3, so I'm going to give 2 honorable mention.
Okay.
So, one is when Hulk grabs Loki mid-speech and just slams him into the ground.
Yes. Okay.
So that's one. The other is...
Poor Loki.
Now I can't decide between these two. The other two are with the security guard that finds Hulk.
Yes!
And it says, "Are you an alien from outer space? An alien?" He's like, "No." "Well then, son, you've got a condition." But I think my favorite scene is honestly between Iron Man and Thor. The first time they meet up, and they're in the forest fighting over Loki.
Okay, yeah.
Because Thor asks him, like, "Do you know that you've gotten in the middle of?" And he says, "Shakespeare in the Park. Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?" It's like that. It's so funny, and like the way then they like fight and their powers like clash with each other, because then they do the headbutt thing and like,
oh my gosh,
and it, then Thor comes down on Captain America at the end of it, and everybody just falls over, and they're like, "Okay, I guess we're done here."
I love that
everything
moment.
about that scene just works for me. Like, it's funny, and it's exactly what you want from a team up movie. Again, the first time we're seeing this happen. So
yeah, this is really shaking. I don't know what you're doing.
Sorry, everybody.
We're on a roller coaster. No, that's so true. That's another reason that I love. Like, Iron Man probably made one of my top favorite lists. Is any movie that has plenty of Tony Stark in it, like Tony Stark one-liners and nicknames that he gives people. I had to look up some of them, I have to admit, because I was like, why is he calling? Like, I didn't know what Point Break meant because he calls Thor that. Like, I had to look up what that meant. Like, there are various ones I've had to.
Oh, the jokes in that one are second to none.
Yeah.
But yeah, his interactions, because he clashes with everybody except Bruce Banner, who is constantly trying to aggravate at the same time.
Yeah.
Like poking at him, seeing if he turns.
One of my favorite ones is when they're in the lab on the helicarrier, and like at one point Tony Stark pulls out like a bag of snacks, and that apparently was a thing that just Robert Downey Jr. kept snacks all over set, and he would just like grab them and eat them. And so just in the middle of the scene, he grabs it and starts eating it and offers it to Mark Ruffalo.
He waits. Because he's trying to get Bruce to agree with him. And then as soon as Bruce agrees with him,
he offers a snack. It's like training,
which he takes.
Yeah. I love that moment. They're the science bros. Is what Tumblr I think likes to call that particular.
Well, and you get some great. I mean, everybody gets some good lines in that movie, but you get a great line there from Bruce, because they ask him if he's okay after Tony sticks him. He's like, "Don't worry, I wouldn't have come if I couldn't handle pointy things."
It's so good. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk is magical. Oh man. So yeah, I think. Even the fun and affection that we talk about with that movie and the Avengers, I think it's really obvious why we picked that as our top favorite. What were some others that maybe made like were in your contenders list? Like, I started to talk about how I feel like Infinity War, if you saw that movie in theaters, that was an experience like nothing else.
Well,
honestly, the end of Infinity War, like, I just remember when that movie ended. Which, I mean, we don't need to give spoiler alerts. That movie came out years ago, but like the movie ends, and it ends in like half of the universe has been dusted, and it's just like everyone just in the theater, it was just dead silent. We're all like, what? And now we have to wait a year. And then it was like, okay, now we have to wait a year to find out how this movie, where does this go? Right?
Yeah.
Like, that was a moment. And then there was also, like, I've seen people talk about how there was this sort of tacit agreement among fans, and everyone was like, no one spoils the end of that movie. Like, you didn't hear people spoiling the end of Infinity War because it was just so shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of wild. I mean, and then of course, you know, then by comparison, the Endgame experience in theaters was
triumphant.
I'm so glad we got to see those movies in theaters.
Yes. Yeah.
So should we switch to bottom?
Bottom 3. This is tough.
I'll do this quick.
Yeah. Okay.
Blow through.
Yeah.
So I'll start, and then you can do. Are you ready, or do you?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
So I'll let it start. So I know a lot of people like these movies, especially comic fans, but I don't really have any attachment to the comics. I sort of just go with what the movies are as they are. We didn't do honorable mention. Let's do honorable mention.
Well, that's what I was kind of doing. I was talking about Infinity War.
Okay,
So
yeah, let me do mine. So I mentioned, Infinity War was one of mine.
Okay.
That was a top contender for 3 for me.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much the only reason I didn't do that is because I had Avengers as number 1.
Yeah, it's hard to do a couple of team up
and
Avengers
not
movies.
To do another Avengers movie.
Yeah.
But Guardians was one, and Black Panther was my other one.
Yes, Black Panther. I felt actually kind of guilty not including Black Panther in
it's just an embarrassment of riches. There's too many good ones. So
it is.
That was definitely. I could have easily swapped out any one of these for number 3 probably.
Yeah.
But they're all just so good for different reasons, and I feel like I don't even need to justify Black Panther. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, incredible.
But here's, which is ironic given one of my bottom choices.
Well, I have one more honorable mention.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My other honorable mention, ironically, is Doctor Strange. That almost made my list. And weirdly, when I was looking at some kind of breakdowns of where people placed that movie, just because I was curious where my opinions would fall, a lot of people put Doctor Strange kind of low, and I was a bit surprised by that.
I really like Doctor Strange.
I loved the original, the first Doctor Strange movie. That was coming pretty fresh off of Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock, and so I was very biased in favor of it because I love BBC Sherlock, excluding the last season, and I thought he was just perfect as Doctor Strange. I thought that movie was really fun, and it told like a really interesting character story too. Mm-hmm. So that made an honorable mention list for me.
Yeah, that one I didn't pick it for top, but that one's up there with like in the category of like the first Iron Man, maybe even a little higher. So it's definitely a high one for me. I've seen it since, and it holds up really well.
Yeah,
I really enjoy the way that they handled just like the introduction of essentially magic into the MCU.
Yeah.
And you have an amazing cast in that movie. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that movie too.
Well, again, talking about personal favorites, not necessarily like what actually is the best movie. Like I want to go rewatch this movie. Actually,
visually, it's incredible.
Yes. Okay, bottom picks.
Okay, so I could do a whole. I'm trying to figure out how to do this briefly. You know why? So these 3 movies are the only 3 of the whole MCU that I actively disliked. I couldn't pick a 4th because these are the only 3 I actively disliked. There are other ones I was kind of on that I wasn't crazy about, but these are ones I walked out and I was like, I just couldn't stand these movies. So, and this one I'm going to say, the first one I'll say is the more mild version. It's Thor Ragnarok. And I know a lot of people really enjoyed that one, but it's to me it makes the characters out to be really dumb. A lot of the jokes are really cheap. I thought Thor as a character is cooler and should have better story, better action than what he was given in Ragnarok. So while it's not painful to watch, it was absolutely not the movie I thought he needed. And I liked Love and Thunder quite a bit more because I thought it balanced the humor and the drama in a lot better way. But we could talk a long time about that, so I'll leave that one there. But that's that. Next, for me, I'll say is... which one do I do next? I hated these next 2. Captain America Civil War. And again, I think a lot of people were excited to watch that movie, but I thought the... aesthetic of it was terrible. It was very urban in a way that worked really well for Winter Soldier and did not work well for Civil War. It didn't make any sense. I thought the airport fight was really dull. Like, it cinematically just looks really dull to me. It's very flat.
It felt so contrived.
And tonal.
Oh.
It's like, really? We're going to have them just fight on a runway? That's the best we can come up with? Like, you have to do... Like, there's so many better fights all over these movies. Like, that's what we came up with for the big fight. I found, their conflict very contrived. I found it very easy to side with one person, and then everybody else was wrong, and then it was very frustrating to watch.
I didn't like that it pitted the fandom against each other. That was like,
Well,
you're team this or team that.
It could have if it did something philosophically interesting, but to me it didn't. To me, their whole conflict was really, really dull and really dumb. It didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And then at the end they have the whole thing where, like, then they have you killed my mom. It's just like, really? We're going to do that now? I don't know. None of it worked for me.
It felt like it was all like, it was just CEOs or execs being like, we want to have these really cool scenes. Make a story that's going to let us do this thing.
And then the scenes weren't even that cool. So I just wasn't, I mean, if you're a comic fan, there's a lot of, like, big nods in there. And so I think, I could see that being fun. But to me, that's fan service. And I don't really care too much even for things that I'm into. I don't really care for just, like, fan service bombs. So, which is why I was worried about No Way Home and was glad it wasn't that. But so that movie just did not work for me. I don't think it's a good movie. I could talk for a long time about why I think it's terrible.
Oh,
so
no.
I'll stop there.
Okay.
Last one, and this one again, I just couldn't stand this movie. I've seen it since, and it's terrible every time. Iron Man 2. That's the one with Whiplash. I just think, again, the action is really dull. The look of it's really dull. But aside from that, like, the story just doesn't work very well. The pacing is really wonky on it. It's a movie that they have admitted they just sort of threw together because they wanted to get a sequel out as fast as possible at that point. So they were rewriting as they were going. They didn't really know what they were doing. They hired a writer that had not been involved at that point and was sort of also figuring out as he went. And a lot of it just really shows. Like, there's not a lot of good going on in that movie. There's some stuff in there that is not the worst, but it doesn't work for me on most levels. Even just as a kind of, even as an action movie, it's really disappointing.
Yeah.
Which is, watching the trailer, I was really excited for it, so I was really disappointed that it didn't work. And you have freaking Mickey Rourke, and you've got. What's his name? Plays the other villain. Sam Rockwell.
Okay.
Sam Rockwell's usually amazing, and he's not bad in the movie, but he's just wasted. Everybody's just wasted. So it was very, and I hated Tony Stark in that movie. He's so unlikable in that movie. And they have this whole backstory with, like, his dad and stuff that I just didn't think was very interesting. And again, you've got a lot of jokes in there that just feel kind of cheap. I didn't really care to see him and Pepper fighting all the time again.
Yeah.
It just felt like they didn't really know what they were doing with this movie.
Yeah. That's fair.
Which they didn't know what they were doing with the movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay, so my least favorite. Okay, so this one I think might be a little bit controversial. And these are
I'm bracing.
It's The Incredible Hulk. I know. I think because, again, this is not me saying this is actually one of the, like, 3 worst movies. This is I personally don't necessarily want to go and watch it again. I think in large part because Mark Ruffalo completely erased Edward Norton as the Hulk in my brain, and it feels strange. Like, it's jarring to watch that movie.
It is a very weird outlier because it's probably one of the most serious MCU movies, if not the most serious MCU movie.
And I understand completely why that is, and that's why I'm not saying it's, like, actually one of the worst Marvel movies. Like, just
it does feel odd too because it doesn't set up anything that really pays off later.
Right.
So
this is just me personally. I don't care to, if I'm doing a rewatch, I would easily skip that one. Mm-hmm. Very easily skip that one.
I can understand.
I had a hard time because I didn't have strong feelings about any other, like, really strong feelings, with the exception of one, which is an overlap with Adams. I would probably put, it's a toss up. If I would put, like, Guardians Volume 2
And like right now, I'm a little hesitant on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Like I think I need to rewatch that one and see how I feel about it. Because that has been like Multiverse of Madness was such a huge shift. It's like a horror genre movie. I don't know that I love what they did with Wanda in that movie, but I only saw it once and I feel like I need to see it again to really form an opinion on it.
I'm going to keep her honest here. She enjoyed that movie
walking
out of it.
Okay.
So I'm not going to, tell you how you have to rank it. I do think that in your memory, it maybe you're remembering the stuff you didn't like.
Maybe. And I am coming off of this really fresh from having seen Guardians Volume 3, and I'm still processing my feelings about that movie. And I think that what's happening is I'm having some internal pushback towards, like, is Marvel shifting towards this horror, dark, gritty genre? Because that's not what I want to see happen in lots of their movies. A lot of their more recent movies have just been heavier. Like I finally watched the most recent Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and that was just a very emotionally heavy movie. And so I'm trying to figure out, maybe is this just what this movie series, this IP is moving towards, and I don't want that to be 100% of their movies going forward, is going to be trying to be really edgy or really heavy emotionally or gritty and dark. So I think that's probably where some of my personal pushback on Multiverse Madness is coming from, is the sense of that was the first one that was really like a step outside into this whole different area and outside of the box, which something outside of the box is good, but and
I will say I don't think that's a new trend. I think that those are specific to those movies.
Okay.
I think Wakanda Forever kind of had to.
Yes.
Because of the situation that,
yes,
was the unfortunate kind of thing they had to deal with there. But I think it also, and then with Guardians, you're seeing not just the end of Guardians, but also the end of James Gunn's relationship with Marvel, probably, now that he is really heavily invested in DC. So I think just like he was probably emotional writing it, and I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
Sure.
We're also probably, I think it's likely we are saying goodbye to Guardians as a franchise, even if the characters continue.
Sure.
So I think that's where you see a little bit
right.
more of that. So I don't think that's a new trend. I think that's specific to those properties.
I think so, maybe, but it's just to have 3 recent releases have the kind of content that I feel like I have to give people disclaimers and trigger warnings for. Mm-hmm. It's like Black Panther. Okay, if you have experienced the loss of a loved one recently, this will, that is so much of what this movie is entirely about, and depending on where you're at emotionally, you might literally not be able to watch this movie. I sobbed through a good part of that movie. And then it's, for Doctor Strange, it's if you don't like really gritty horror style imagery and all this stuff, that one didn't need as much of a disclaimer. But I feel like I've needed to give, I've had to warn people off of Guardians 3 or tell them, if you are at all sensitive to these particular topics, like body horror, animal cruelty and torture, that is front row center. And the way that the story plays out, the payoff is there, and it's very moving emotionally, and it's important to the story, but it's upsetting. Yeah, it's so upsetting
with sensitivity, but it's certainly not.
It doesn't shy away. No.
I would say the way I described it, just in fairness to a friend of ours recently, was it's really just in content, not dissimilar to the kinds of upsetting things that we saw in Disney movies growing up, but this is more photorealistic, and so it's harder to watch because it feels a little bit more real to you, because it's not an animated thing, and when you're a kid that doesn't make much of a difference, but when you're an adult it does. So so the trigger warning is real and legitimate,
this isn't me trying to be trigger warning happy,
well, no, you're not wrong. It's more just in fairness, I don't want to make it sound like they've that's sadistic, and that's where I think
correct.
That's what I try to I was trying to explain. It's just like, I don't want you to think they've kind of gone way off the deep end with this movie. Like, they haven't. But certainly depending on who you are and what your tolerance level is for certain things, it may not be for you.
Yeah. But I guess my point is that for a long time, I didn't think that, I never felt like Marvel movies warranted these kinds of trigger warnings. And I don't think it comes from a place of like, now we're a trigger warning sensitive society. I think that they're just pushing it a little bit more.
They certainly are.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
I personally like that they're doing, not that they're pushing it per se in the ways that they are, but I like that they're expanding their boundaries.
Sure.
Because so many of these movies start to feel very
samey,
and it's nice that they're
that's fair.
Finally starting to kind of do things that are less uniform.
Yeah.
So I like to see a little bit of variety.
Tweezers.
There's plenty of room for variety. There's a lot of characters,
sure.
A lot of styles. It's nice to see them kind of do some different things. So
sure.
I know that people have their opinions on Phase 4, but I would rather see them swing and miss from time to time than not swing at all.
That is fair. I can get on board with that. So for that reason, it was a tangent I was totally okay with. That's where my kind of question marks on what do I call my like second least favorite. My actual least favorite, I dislike this movie and I don't want to rewatch it, is Civil War. I didn't like Civil War whatsoever.
Be honest, did I ruin Civil War for you?
Not necessarily. Your opinion did sway me a bit, but now just, again, I'm a little bit more immersed in fandom in general and have rewatched these movies several times. And now independent of what you have told me, what we've talked about, I really hate Civil War. I hated that movie. I hate what it did and what it kind of stands for and what I have so many issues with it. But the one good thing that came out of it is we did get that Spider-Man cameo. Like, that was fun, right? The Spider-Man cameo moment.
In Civil War. Yeah, oh, yes.
That was fun.
The best part of Civil War was easily Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Tom Holland, and I liked, because they also introduced Black Panther.
That's true.
So I loved Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther. I wasn't nuts about his characterization, but that's more of a plot problem than a character problem.
Sure.
No, I mean, those were easily the bright spots in Civil War.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean like the whole movie. I'm not gonna like rewatch.
Unfortunately, they don't buoy the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I did like, for what it's worth, Zemo, as a character.
Sure.
I wish they'd done more with him in the show. But
we could have looped the TV shows into this.
He had potential. Well, the shows are harder to.
Yeah. And as it is, honestly, I was all worried, thinking, how long are we actually going to talk? Am I actually going to have enough content for this? We've been talking for about an hour, so.
Have you met me?
I know. I'm not mad. I love it. So this was fun, you guys. This was really, really fun. I'm looking forward to hearing your reactions in the comments.
Right. Come at me, people. Come at me.
I want to reiterate, these are just our personal opinions. We are not comments. Like, you are perfect.
These are facts.
Okay, you
and
hush.
I will die on that hill.
You will hush. He will not.
So come for me.
He will not.
Come get me. No. Legit, I would love to converse with you guys. If anybody would like to please do give your opinions. I love to read them, and I would love to answer questions or hear what you guys think too of some of the things that we've brought up. It would be fun.
Maybe you'd fully disagree with some of our. But what if we have a bunch of Civil War stans that come out of the woodwork?
Oh gosh.
We'll try to find ways to respond, but
I'll try to be nice.
Genuinely, these again, we're for the most part saying that these are just our personal favorites, and while there is, because Adam is a movie buff and he has pulled me along for the ride very happily, so these are again personal favorites. I'm not saying like these are actually
the best, objectively, Marvel movies in the series. But this was fun. I love just going completely deep into like nerd talk and culture and fandom talk. So thank you for coming along for the ride with us. I hope that you had fun. Let us know your thoughts down in that comment section. I'll have Adam all signed up in YouTube, ready to go and engage. He'll troll. No, he won't troll you. He's not that kind of guy.
No, I won't troll you. I wouldn't do it to you.
So no,
I will argue with you, but
very
nice.
respectfully,
Nice
very
about
respectfully.
Yeah.
So thank you for hanging out with us today. We genuinely cannot wait to hear what you guys have to say as well. So feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with my diamond painting content. It's not like 99% of the time. It is not just pure movie talk like this was, but hey, this was a really fun departure for us, and I appreciate that you guys hung out with us today. So have an absolutely wonderful week, my friends, and I will see you next week for week 3 of Marvel-ous May. All right. Bye. You want to say goodbye too?
Bye-bye.
Oh, look. Oh, a little closer. A little further. There we go. There. Okay. Bye.
Jazz fingers.